As a woman of color in architecture, my next guest is a rare gem. My sister friend of over 20 years, I have watched her apply focus and tenacity in every area of her life, leading to a very successful career in construction. She inspires me and challenges me every single day. I love her, and I know that you will too. Welcome back to viSHEbility. This is the talk show where we shine a light on the marketplace successes of women of color in the UK. And I have a phenomenal guest here with me, Kikelomo Sanyaolu. Now, it's not every day that I get to share one of my best friends with you lots, but today I thought I would. I've known Kike for well over 20 years. And she's just such an inspiration and a true friend. So I'm really excited to have her on here. What was it about architecture that really caught your eye? I mean, when did that moment drop for you?
Wow. Okay, I'm going to take you down memory lane.
Okay.
It dropped for me when I was about 10.
Okay.
I particularly like creating.
Right.
And I think it was an environmentally induced interest.
Okay.
I spent a lot of time in my father's practice, just spending time in the midst of the architects in the firm. I was exposed to the creation, the beauty, it caught my eye, it caught my attention, and I knew I wanted to be in that field.
Okay, what did that look like?
I basically asked around, what did I need to study in secondary school to be on this career path?
Okay, that early on. Okay.
Stick to. So I was encouraged to follow the arts, you know, and actually I ended up doing both. So I ended up combining sciences and arts.
Okay.
It wasn't easy, but it was interesting. So I did a bit of that. Interestingly enough, people think you need technical drawing. I didn't do that.
Okay.
Yes. So I did physics, chemistry, biology. I then did fine arts. I just continued to, ask questions about architecture. Yeah. I've also got so many uncles who are architects.
Okay. Yeah.
So there was always one person.
No aunties?
No aunties.
Okay, so no female presence.
No.
So how did that make you feel? Like kind of thinking around, if all of those you were aspiring to were male, did you at any point think, there's no one that really looks like me. Should I pursue this path?
It's interesting that would be no. Yes, okay. I'm female. Yes, I was surrounded by men who were my uncles, family members, and role models, but it didn't occur to me that I was different from them in any way.
Okay.
It was much later in my life I realized I belonged to like a niche. When I got to the stage where it was time to progress to university, I sort of asked around and I did my research. I found out what the best schools of architecture were because I was pretty sure I didn't want to just go to an average school.
Yeah.
So I narrowed it down to about 5 or 6, as we do when we're, doing our UCAS admission. And Liverpool University stood out because it was it is the oldest school in architecture.
Yeah.
So I went there, did the interview, and it was a wrap.
It was a wrap. Okay. And how did you research the grades that you needed to get? Did you know what grades you were aiming for and all of that?
I was told what grades I had to achieve.
Okay. To get in?
So to get in, yes. And every school differed.
Yeah.
Okay. So I was told, I think at the time, it was 65% or something. And I smashed it and, so I got the
Okay, so you didn't do A-levels, you did like foundation
in engineering.
Right,
yes.
Right.
So that is just one route for many people young ladies who want to pursue architecture. You can do so many things. You can do A-levels. You can do a foundation in any technical thing. Mine was in engineering.
I remember when you were studying this, and I was always obviously so proud and I have a friend who's actually studying this architecture, and I was in probably more of quote and unquote more of the mainstream finance, accountancy type of thing, and I didn't really understand like your world. But one thing that you did say, which caught my eye, was, "I'm going to be in school for how many years?"
Well, in school for 5 years. The journey is 7.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so in 7 years studying. how did you keep your eye on the ball, like your focus? Because obviously at this point, I had left school. Our other friends had left school. We had probably started making money and being all, working and pursuing our careers and stuff. How do you keep your eye on because I can't imagine having been in school for 7 years. I even personally can't do it. I can't imagine it.
Yes, I get that asked. I get asked that a lot. So the thing is, for you and Busola and so many of our other friends, 3 years or 4 years, but the point is you finished. You completed what you went into university to achieve. And my journey was 7 years, and it's incomplete if you do under 7. So that kept me focused. I knew I didn't want to have an incomplete journey. I knew I wanted to get to the peak of what I was trying to achieve, because there are three turning points for architecture in England. You have your first degree, so that is a completion in itself, and you can decide to go through another route. And if you decide you want to end up being a chartered architect, you will then come back and do a compulsory 2-year master's. Most masters are just 1 year, maybe 18 months for some others. For ours is 2 years, and that is another turning point. So if you achieve that, yes, you'd have achieved quite a lot, and you could decide to just carry on with that and continue, so you become a part 2. But for you to be chartered and registered with the Royal Institute of British Architects, you need to do your Part 3. And that is doing your professional exams and enrolling in another university. So I did that. I did that at UCL.
Okay.
And yes, at every point, every turning point, every graduation, I just kept on thinking, I'm not there yet. That was what made me keep my focus.
Okay. So now in your time at uni, when did you start engaging with life after uni, like thinking about your career, thinking about like work, where you're going to work?
Let's go way back.
Okay.
After second year, everybody was thinking, how are we going to survive in architecture? We need to get a taste of the world. So we literally decided, friends and everyone in the year, we need to work. So we had 3 months, a summer placement. How do you go about getting that? That was a challenge.
Okay.
Who would employ a second year student so much expected of an architect? And so I just sat down in the house. I took the phone, I took the yellow pages, I took my printouts.
You had the yellow pages? How long ago was this?
This was 2005.
Actually, it was 2005.
2005.
Okay.
And then I took my printouts from the research I'd done for firms around the house. They're called 50 practices.
Wow.
That day.
So at what point in an architecture course are people expect? So in finance, you start. Finance is accounting is a 3-year degree somewhat. You start applying for internships like year 1. Where you do like a spring insight, then year 2 you get a 10-week internship, and then year 3 you graduate and then you start work.
Interesting.
That's kind of the whole process, and it's pretty laid out, pretty structured.
Okay.
So like with you and your field, at what point in your journey are people expected to start gaining experience, putting into practice the things that they are learning?
After the first 3 years.
Okay, right. So you're doing it at that 2 years was early.
Proactive.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. We like proactive. Awesome.
Okay,
cool.
Yeah, we did that. And I was lucky I got one in central London. I literally called the guy and I said, you don't even have to pay me. Because I thought what he was giving me in return was what I really wanted. The value could not be estimated. So, But in hindsight, I think, we should have paid me.
In hindsight, I should have paid you, but I totally understand. Because it would have been, you going back to school after that experience would have changed your perspective.
It did.
Yeah.
And I was more confident. I knew I was on the right track, and I knew that I would get there.
Nice.
After the completion of the first degree, that was when real life started. So you have to work in a practice for a minimum of 1 year. You can just, some people, start working, get lost there, enjoy working, enjoy making money, and just carry on and are there for 10 years. But you need to do a minimum of 1 year to come back for your master's.
Okay.
And that was where the networking helped.
Yeah.
So I have this good friend of mine, Tara, who's also an architect.
Yeah, okay.
And she was working in a multidisciplinary practice in the architectural side. And she must have been quite impactful in amongst her colleagues, because the manager came to her and said, is there anyone who can step into your shoes?
Okay.
Can you nominate anyone we could add to the shortlist?
So she's already working. She's already in industry.
She's ahead of me.
Awesome.
By a year.
Okay.
So, And thankfully, she thought, yeah, I do know a girl. I know Kike. And she put my name down.
Amazing.
I went down for the interview and I got the job.
Amazing. Okay, so from our last conversation, we've had a number of conversations around the different areas in which architects could work. Can you like share some of that with me and our viewers, and then also talk a little about where you now operate?
Okay. It's so big, architecture, but we fall under the construction industry, as you know. You know, so you'd have engineers, you have architects, you have so many other people, landscape architects, mechanical, electrical. So we're all in this big construction industry that is 80% male.
Right.
The most creative side would probably be the architectural side.
Right.
Okay, and then so the architects come into that. You should be able to dabble into infrastructure, but a lot of architects don't find it a path that is enough to express their creative side.
Right.
It's very much 1 + 1 = 2. You know, but they have you can express your flair more with buildings and your creativity. So what are the parts you can step into with architecture? Most people do not really want to divert. I won't say digress, I would say divert, because you've spent such a long time. It's a bit like doctors. So doctors spend forever, apologies to all doctors out there, forever studying medicine. They wouldn't wake up and say, I want to be a businessman.
Yeah.
Because you have paid so much, you've given
Invested
so much. So it's similar for architecture. And that restricts people because they've done this thing for 7 years. This is the one I know. Let me stick to the one I know. If you want to step out, you can step out by being a design manager, which is how I stepped out.
Okay.
So when I was working in an architectural practice, I felt that there was a gap because you have the very creative side, what a lot of people like to refer to as the fluffy side.
Right.
And then you have the,
very technical, mortar,
being on site and actually constructing it.
Yeah.
Many a times, architects design ambitious things.
I was going to ask that, like, do you need one to do the other? Because otherwise you can just basically have a pipe dream and no one can then create it.
You need
like
someone who can practically create it. Yeah. Sometimes puts the design in check and say, actually, this is buildable this way. It's not buildable that way. So I decided I wanted to go into construction just to fill in any gaps and get a bit more experience and a bit more knowledge. And that's what I did.
Okay. So when you say construction, so what do you then interpret the design to then those who are on site and then do? Okay, that's amazing. Okay, so that's what you do day to day. What are some of the projects that you've worked on that you're most proud of that you think will be interesting?
Well, I worked on Jaguar Land Rover.
Oh, okay. These guys.
But that was quite a project. And the one I just finished now is the headquarters for retail banking in Birmingham for HSBC Bank.
Whoop, whoop. Okay. So that's a big building. And that was a very long project as well.
It was about maybe 2 years.
Yeah. Okay, so now you're done. And so what did you actually do in that project? Because that's interesting.
So as a contractor or for someone working on the construction side, what you need to do is oversee the design team. So many designers, as you can imagine, with the project that are prestigious, are involved. So you need to coordinate between them, making sure they speak to manage the design team is what I do. So you need to manage the design team and make sure there are no clashes. So they're speaking to each other the way they should. For example, you have a beautiful staircase design that the architect has put on paper. We need to be sure that the structural engineer can interpret that into a structure that is minimal and doesn't take away from the aesthetics of the architect's dream. We then need to think that another, say, mechanical and electrical is able to put the lights under the steps in the way the architect has dreamt. So you have all this many people interfacing, and we, the contractors, have to manifest this dream.
Right.
So every day I basically get to work, turn on my laptop, and my tasks fall into 3 categories. It's either the client trying to seek clarification from me on, a design, to get better understanding, or it is the design team trying to seek my approval on if a resolution or a new design, depending on the aspect of the building, is viable enough for them to move forward with. And then the third category would be the people building it as well. Say there might be an issue, they would want to check with me to be sure that it's in keeping with the intent, the design intent, and also an alternative way of building it because there's a problem.
Right.
That's it.
So as a woman of color in the industry, are there many of you?
No, they aren't.
Okay.
But we have managed to find each other.
Okay.
Yes.
So how have you done that?
Well, there's so many. So for the Royal Institute of British Architects, which is our official body,
Right.
they encourage people of color, male or female, by having shows and celebrating intermittently. Recently, we had the Stephen Lawrence celebrated issue, and RIBA, because Stephen Lawrence wanted to be an architect before his life was untimely cut short. So the Royal Institute of British Architects wanted to encourage people of color by holding forums and just rolling out all sorts of competitions, publicizing it and things like that. So that is one aspect of support. Another aspect of support is a recently developed thing called Paradigm.
Okay.
So Paradigm is this forum where BAME architects, Black and ethnic minorities, have come together to support each other, you know. And it's, at the moment, I think it's a WhatsApp group, it's on LinkedIn, there's a website, but it's a way that successful architects reach out to upcoming ones. And there is Elsie Onwusu, who's a Ghanaian, British, very popular female Black architect. She inspires. She was recently contested to be the president of the Royal Institute of British Architects. Yes, so she's highly respected, and she's a mentor for us on the group. Yeah.
Oh, excellent. And is it important, like from your perspective, given that you've worked in that industry now for a number of years, is it important to have people of color in that industry, and why? Why does it make sense, and why does it even make business sense?
So for people of color, females, they fall into three categories, right? Or two actually. So number one, they're female and in construction. So sometimes you feel alone because you're in an office and the ratio, most times I'm in a meeting, I'm the only female and the only Black female, that's a guarantee. So the RIBA encourages people by all these things I said previously. Is it important? Yes, because mentorship is very important. You can't go very far as an architect, especially when you have the tough times, without having a mentor or having someone you look up to, or having
but surely you can have a mentor that's not Black or not a person of color.
You might feel sometimes that they can't relate with you on the level that you want to be related with. And that is where a female or a Black person might come in. There are fantastic role models out there in architecture, brilliant men, you know, and not necessarily Black, but just having that extra bit of, sometimes I know how you feel when you walk into a room and you're the only one.
Something that joins you together,
Yes, that is it really.
Okay. Okay. And okay, so now, like, so do you have a mentor that's a person of color close to you?
I don't have a mentor who's a person of color close to me. I have my friends who are doing so well that motivate me. We motivate each other. And yes, we're women of color. And there is also something which might be important for young girls to know. There is a mentorship program called Fluid. So Fluid is a one-year program and it's rolled out by the RIBA. I'm going to be a mentee for this year's, and I would encourage all students of architecture, especially females, especially Black people, to make themselves visible in this way. So drop an email to the Fluid team and ask for a mentor local to you. Put the time and the effort into meeting up with your mentor. And it's particularly streamlined at making leaders out of the mentees. So if you want to be a leader, then you should do that.
Okay. So what inspires you?
So many things inspire me. Success. I want to be successful. And giving back. I love to give back to people because it's a path I've trodden myself. So I like to make sure that if I'm able to help others not make the mistakes I've made, I want to be that person who can help. So giving back, and also just living life and having a legacy behind.
Right. Just when I think about like your field in your career,
Okay.
is there a particular lesson that it feels like it keeps coming around in circles and somehow you're just not picking it up?
Well, I think I can say I have picked it up now.
Okay.
And that would be learning when to leave something which isn't working and try something new.
Okay.
So a lot of the time we're encouraged to think outside of the box. But as you know, the design process is long. So if you've been working on something for 6 months and you can see that it's just not going the way you'd like, there's that fear of abandoning it and going back to the drawing board. So I have learned that it's better in the long run to scratch it and start afresh in the hope that it would be better than to keep doing the same thing when you're pretty sure you're not getting the results you want.
So, you've shared so much about tenacity and focus and courage and just having clarity of vision. What core values do you possess that you think you pretty much rely on or have relied on and will probably continue to rely on as you progress on this journey?
Well, self-belief would be the first one. The other one would be perseverance. And I think the third one would be hard work.
So what's next for you? What's next for Kike?
In the field of construction, my desire and what I'm working on at the moment is to make a mark as a developer. I would like to, again, branch out slightly and develop buildings and projects and just manage them myself and own them.
Okay.
That's the next. That's
so
what
would this mean like working for yourself maybe?
Eventually, that would be working for myself.
Okay.
I would be starting my own development company.
Awesome. Oh wow. Okay, so I'm super excited about that, and I'm sure obviously I am going to live to see it because I'm so close to it.
Yes.
So I'm excited to see it all develop. And so, how can our viewers reach out to you to get your attention?
Okay, you can email me on Kike Sanyaolu at yahoo.com.
Okay.
You can contact me on Instagram, Kikelomo with the double O at the end, or you can just look me up on LinkedIn, Kike Sanyaolu.
Okay, and we'll have all of the details just below on the screen as well. But for now, wow, such an amazing conversation. There's so much that I've taken out of this. You know, the importance of having strong role models and things that you can aspire to. I think it was powerful when you talked about the fact that really you're an architect because you saw your dad live that out and family and uncles and close family members live that out. And I think in this day and age, we may not always have that in our families, but we would at least have that in people around us, in the mentors that are around us, the other people in our organizations that we can, that we think represent us, that we can kind of aspire to. You know, I think that's important. I think also you shared so much about that focus, knowing that you have to always complete what you start. I think that is powerful. And knowing that that's such a huge driver in where you are now, just the ability for you to have seen what you wanted to be, just sunk your teeth into it and just knew that from the get-go, you were not going to stop until you completed it.
Yes.
I'm so excited for you and your future. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Shakwe.